Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the Crowded Booth here on a Sunday night edition as we take a look at the college football playoff. What in the world did the committee do? Is it good? Is it bad? We'll discuss it on tonight's episode of the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Kuhn.
Welcome in. Welcome all. My name is Bryce Kuhn alongside Will Manis and Ralph Leary. And Will, just not even 24 hours ago, Will traversed I-85. Will, honest to God, it was what, like 15 hours ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that road.
I-85 in South Carolina is miserable. It's miserable.
Terrible. And you got to drive slow.
Yeah, no, this is what we figured out last night. Absolutely dead. We figured that out big time last night. Welcome into the show, everyone. My name is Bryce Kuhn, Will Manis, and Ralph Leary, fresh off of a trip to Charlotte and Conference Championship weekend. It is bowl season, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ready for a bowl kickoff, and I will say this. Hats off to Ralph for winning the regular season Best Bets Challenge. Will takes off his crown. I'll take it off of him right here. And I give it over to Ralph. So congratulations, Ralph. We will be doing a Bowl Mania that you can pick against the spread along with us. So we'll see. You know, a lot of people say we don't know ball. And I guess we'll figure that out. We'll figure out if we don't know. Ralph, any words as you get your acceptance speech of being the 2024 Best Bets winner?
They doubted me at first, and so I doubted myself also at first, but I'm still on top of the world.
Who are the doubters?
Everyone
doubted Ralph.
You too.
Us too. I guess we doubted Ralph. Will doubted himself. And that's a problem Will's trying to work through.
You
after
didn't doubt me week 0 technically because you did run the same bet as I did.
I did ride with you there. College football season has come to the regular season, I should say. Conference title is in the past, and now we get ready for
the
bowl
12
season.
games that matter have passed.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Okay. Oh my gosh. I did not know that this was Andy that we met. Andy, apologies. So, long story short, we're walking from our Airbnb to the stadium, and there's a guy in a GT hoodie, and I'm like, go Jackets. He goes, great to finally meet you. And Andy, I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't know who that was. So, it was good to meet you. It was good to meet you. Ralph, is it bad on me for not recognizing Andy? Andy's a loyal follower of the show.
I don't know if it's bad. I mean, out of all our viewers, how many do you think you could actually say that's who they are?
Sadly, too many. Sadly, too many. Yeah, sadly, too many. Will, did you know? I didn't know that was Andy.
Did not. Although there was a lot happening at the time. The SMU band was playing in front of us. We're trying to figure out how to get in the stadium. We ended up having to walk around. We took like 2 laps around the stadium trying to figure out how to get in. It was was a wild day.
Shout
and then
out
a
to
wild
Clutch
night
Griffin.
after the game.
Yeah, shout out to the drunk Clemson fan that tried to stand on business against us. He failed. First off, no one was even talking to him, and he just decided to try to start something. And Ralph said if he was there, he'd have hit the pavement. That's what Ralph said.
I can guarantee that nothing would have transpired differently.
We don't need Ralph to catch a charge in North Carolina. He's already got pending ones up there.
Nobody said a word. This guy walked past us and said, "Huh?"
Now, hold on. we're not gonna spread lies like that, Brian.
Misinformation. No, but in all seriousness, Will, you're exactly right. We're just sitting there, and I don't even know if anyone was saying anything. He just goes, "Huh?" Uses some colorful language to ask what in the world was going on, and we're like, "I don't know." Then I proceeded to tell him that I was better than him, and he just continued to get more angry. So should have said Google me. But what a night. What a night. Well, I want you to describe it because that was awesome. And I'm glad the game was exciting at the end because it wasn't looking good. We talked about it. You can check out the video of our kind of instant reaction thoughts from the field on Saturday night or we into the morning hours. Your thoughts, though, Will, just on the experience.
I mean, it's something I've never got to experience before, being on the field, especially during a game, and then as the game ended, it ended in maybe the most perfect way if you're on the field. It was utter pandemonium. So we were on the SMU sideline, and like nobody knew if they could run on the field because SMU just nobody moved. It was
all right.
I think everybody was in shock at how the game ended, but it was a ton of fun, and I hope that I can get to do it again. That was like for the first ever experience. I don't know if it can be topped. It's going to take something even crazier to top it.
No, I agree. It will. Now, Ralph, you saw the video of, the I don't want to call it a field storm. I mean, Clemson's bench emptied. But I really want y'all. Can you see Ralph? Can you pull up the video, please?
I was kind of trying this.
Yeah, Gavin was there, and this is a lie. Dabo didn't stand a chance. That is not true.
Yeah, I don't know what Gavin's talking about.
It's ready, Bryce.
All right, it's ready. So we'll keep we'll have the audio here. We'll turn it down a little bit so we don't destroy people's ears. And I told them was, look, when that happens, it's free reign. You can run out there. You can do whatever you want. Now, reminder, Will and Gavin have never been in this situation, and they handled it in two completely different ways, which I think is a very interesting case study.
Can I guess? I know what Gavin did, but Will probably just stood there right next to you because he was not running on the field.
Well, it was kind of overwhelming because, I mean, I had to I don't know. Well, I had to not body. I'm not saying body. I had to hold off a guy because they were going crazy, so I wouldn't get trampled.
Right.
So the ESPN guys right here in front of us, they're going out there because if people don't know, there's a race to get to the coaches. Like that's what every single videographer, all these people want. Now you can hear me say go, 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 go because Gavin in the corner of the screen right here has turned around and headed back towards the sun because for some reason people didn't run right out there. There's Gavin. This is one of the greatest clips I've ever seen caught on camera. Right here. Go, 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 me yelling. That's awesome. It's hilarious.
He's just running like an NPC. I mean,
just straight up NPC behavior, which we did
and
also encounter.
Then he got trucked by Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, he did. Gavin.
Gavin can honestly say that he has hit a football coach on the field before.
Yes. Gavin can say he stood on business against Dabo Swinney.
There's not many people who can say I've hit Dabo Swinney across the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm. Gavin said he brought his bag on accident because we left him in the bathroom. It was, it's just.
I did see that text.
Hey, maybe next year,
go.
Maybe next year, me and Gavin can run over Hugh Freeze. It'd be a good day.
And what game is that going to be at? The Birmingham Bowl?
Any Auburn game.
Oh. Trent said, did Dabo run him over? No,
yes.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Almost did, kind of. Great night. Great night in Charlotte. Great fan support. Honestly, it's an NFL stadium, and we were talking about this. What would I have to do to have that opportunity, Clayton? I don't know. Maybe tone down on some of the comments that you throw in here. No, I'm just kidding. When they lose to Mercer, Gavin said.
And then Bryce, we almost got run over by the entire Clemson football team.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so when things like this happen, I kind of like to capture both sides in video of what's going on. You got Kevin Jennings, who's emotional, being consoled by our guy, kind of as they head off to the locker room. Interesting enough, there's only one tunnel for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin Jennings is making his way, and he has to cross paths with the entire corner. It felt like the Clemson band and a lot of the students were kind of there.
Yep.
I'm filming it. Will's back is to the field. Big old offensive lineman, big old hog molly starts thundering. And then I see the whole team start running over there, getting ready to pump up the crowd, which is a cool moment. And I look at one and said, Clemson's on their way. Like, you're going to need to get out of the way. And we almost got trampled. So that was crazy. That was crazy.
I'm glad y'all didn't get trampled. So.
Yeah.
I'm very glad.
I am. literally
Ralph,
just
that's why
said
we
it.
needed you there. We needed help.
Now, see, here's the thing. I wouldn't be able to do like I used to do in high school, of moving
Well, not a
through
lot of people
linemen.
could.
Well, I'm saying moving just because in general, I don't think I had maybe one left in me, one just run through. But after that, it's
Well,
over.
we're not asking you to like pull as a tackle into the B gap or something like that. We're just asking you to.
I don't know,
Because
dude.
Gavin-
Matt Luke was close to us just about the whole time on the field. Maybe if you would have shown him something, you still got 4 years of eligibility.
Well, Ralph's got eligibility. Matt Luke, by the way, was either completely locked in or he was freezing his butt off because he paced around the field like 4 times.
Can it be both? Because he might have been both.
That's fair. It was 35 degrees. Also, on the ESPN broadcast, we cannot show it, okay? But go watch the final SMU drive, okay? You can see Will and I, but then you just see Gavin. They make several first downs, and Gavin's at the top of the screen going, first down. And it's amazing.
Well,
it's good.
I'm just glad he didn't wear his Auburn Everything School shirt.
Yeah, that would have been something. The pony
Because
pony was wild too.
Because that's what he wore to Auburn.
Peruna.
We almost stepped in Peruna feces, by the way.
I was going to say, Peruna left her mark on Bank of America Stadium. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And so did Gavin. So
maybe she'll make her mark on
species on the
Beaver
field
Stadium too.
No, but I will say this: certain people in the media scrum did leave their mark on Gavin, and they left an impression. And what a wild time! We'll have to talk more about that at a later date. So Andy says, "I love Peruna. Peruna was really cool." Okay, let's dive in. College football playoff reaction. Ralph, I'm going to bring back up the graphic that we can look at here because, in all honesty, fellas, like I tweeted out this morning, I said, here's what I would do. And sorry, God, Gavin. I said, here's what I would do. And I kind of laid it out there, and I don't think it was that far off, I guess I would say, of what they were trying to accomplish. I have reservations about putting a G5 team in the buys. And so I kind of wanted to start there. Like, we're going to look at this. We'll look at the graphic here in a second. But let's kind of kick this thing off because I want to start out with the negative. The negative to me in this entire thing is that we are going to have to find a way, or the committee's going to have to find a way, or ESPN, whoever controls this thing, the seeding and the ranking has got to change once we get to these things because I agree that conferences are not created equal. And so by the virtue of that, I think that we really do need to see you could get automatically into the playoffs. That's fine with me. But you don't just get to have the top four can't just be locked out just for conference champions. That's kind of my take on this. So, Will, I'll start with you because I know you've been kind of hard on this because we obviously saw Boise State 3, Arizona State 4. Just what are your thoughts on that? Do we need to see some type of, I don't know, I don't want to say renegotiation, in some form or fashion? The way this is currently set up, I don't like it in terms of the 4 buys. I think the buys is a broken system.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, conference championship games have to matter, right? I mean, if they don't matter, then they won't be played. And I think everybody loves conference championship games. I mean, conference championship games is still, in the grand scheme of college football, is still a pretty new concept. The first one was played in 1992. I mean, so they're still young. I mean, it's not like it's anything set in stone, but I think it's a great and perfect addition to the game. But it's difficult because you say you have 4 power conferences. There's champions should probably get a bye. I mean, it puts value on winning their conference. It's to me, it's a slippery slope, whichever direction you go. Right? I think Boise State getting a bye is not really fair. I don't know that it's really fair to Clemson winning the ACC. I mean, granted, don't go 9-3 and you won't be in this position.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like the Mountain West and the ACC are 2 very different conferences, obviously. But I think conference championship games have to matter. I like having the buys, and in the same token, it wouldn't be fair to Boise State for them to go 12-1, their only loss to the number 1 team in the country, and you say that, well, they don't deserve a bye because they play in a weaker conference. Now, had they not played Oregon this year and were 13-0 and played a bunch of nobodies, the Mountain West and some FCS opponents, then I would say no, they shouldn't get a bye. But
and Georgia
playing Oregon and going toe to toe with them, I think that they are justified in getting the bye, and the rest of the power conferences were just so mediocre this year.
Yeah, no, there is a case of just win your games and worry about it where it is. I'd like to see. I've got some thoughts on. I really did agree with Nick Saban's portion of the strength of schedule. Like you have to acknowledge it in some sort of things, because there will be a fallout of this. There will be some adverse reactions, whether it's too much or not. We'll talk about that in a second. Ralph, your thoughts on just those top four teams and what you saw. I mean, I feel like it's pretty standard for us to see Oregon, Georgia there at number 2 or 1 and 2. What do you think about it, though? With obviously the top four, would you have liked to see Clemson pushed up into that, or you think they got it right?
I think they got it right, Bryce. I agree with what Will just said, though. But if you're going to make the argument about Boise State, not playing really anybody but only Oregon, make the same case with Indiana. I mean, you have to, because they play in a bigger conference, but they pulled the weakest schedule from their conference. They play no out of conference teams, but who? I guess Charlotte might be the best thing they played out of conference. And that's being very generous. I mean, that's between FIU, Western Illinois. So, it's the same thing. And you only lost this to Ohio State by 13 points at home, or at Ohio State. I mean, you performed horribly in that game. I mean, it's just if we're going to make the same case with Boise State, with their only loss being to number 1 Oregon on the road by 3. And had a running back, had a Heisman performance in that game, we got to make the same one for Indiana and other teams, going forward. If you're going to play a weaker conference schedule, it's not your fault. You don't choose who you play in conference schedules. It's randomized almost every year. But if you're going to perform in the playoff, and you're going to be in the playoffs, you got to have to schedule something, an out-of-conference game. And I know, that's now the argument now, because Alabama did not make it in, is, we're never going to play an out-of-conference schedule again. That's a good team. Well, who did Alabama play out of conference? Wisconsin?
But their losses were to a 6-6 Vanderbilt and a 6-6 Oklahoma.
No, let's not talk. Hold on.
And your non-conference schedule,
embarrassing 34-3,
24-3,
24-3 lost on the road to Oklahoma, where you were 21-point favorites.
Well,
that's nothing.
Your non-conference schedule, you can't blame teams for a week out of conference schedule. These games are scheduled 8-10 years in advance. You don't know what team you're facing when you schedule them.
Yeah.
I mean, when Alabama and Wisconsin set up this game, Wisconsin was a top 15 program every single year, playing for Rose Bowls, playing for Big Ten championships. So it's not really fair to harp on Alabama about that. The same token, SMU, they were scheduled to play Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt backed out. That's not on SMU. But it actually kind of worked. SMU, their only loss to BYU, who was really good this year. But when they scheduled that game, they didn't know how good they were. So, and it's more than scheduling out of conference. If you beat all the teams on your schedule and you do it convincingly, and it's a whole resume. Indiana, of any team in the power conference, they have the largest point differential, the largest margin of victory of any Power 4 conference opponent. That is taking care of their business. You have very little control over your schedule, but everybody's acting like you pick your schedule every year, and you should make it as hard or as easy as possible. Just go take care of business. Go take care of business. Notre Dame sitting as the number 7 seed, which I said today, it's funny and really mind-blowing how their loss to Northern Illinois is just forgotten. But it's kind of forgotten because they took care of business against everybody else. They went on the road. They beat a very good Texas A&M team that was one game short of the SEC championship game. Went on the road. They play USC every year, but they went on the road. They had played a tough game against USC, who is having a down year, which is not Notre Dame's fault. But they found a way to win that game on the road. But they took care of business against everybody else. That's why they're in the playoff. They won their games.
Mm-hmm.
They won their games. Should they be the 7th seed? Maybe not. I think they maybe should be punished more for that Northern Illinois game, but they should be in the playoff. They are one of the 12 best teams. And I know we'll probably get to it. It's like the title says, Alabama versus SMU. SMU is one of the 12 best teams in the country. I don't think Alabama is. I think Alabama is in that conversation because they're Alabama. That's the reason. Any other team loses by 21 on the road to a 6-6 team. They lose to a Vanderbilt, another 6-6, 7-5 team. They're not really in this conversation. And Alabama didn't have that many other convincing wins. So we talk, it's everything. It's brand value, it's resume, it's your schedule. It's everything. It's the whole body of work for the 2024 season. That's how we get to this 12.
And Will, you hit it perfectly because it goes to the same thing I was, talking to some friends with the other day. If you just win your games, you don't have this problem. I mean, I know it's cliche and it's like, well, things happen during seasons, injuries happen, but win. Like, they're not going to kick you out for winning your conference and going undefeated or then maybe losing one game. Like if Alabama lost one game this year, I mean, they're sitting at like a 5 seed right now.
If they didn't lose to Oklahoma, they're in my opinion.
Exactly. I mean, it's this thing is, there's so many things you can complain about, but just win your games. Don't lose to Vanderbilt on the road when you had you were like a 14-point favorite. Don't lose to Oklahoma on the road when you're a 21-point favorite, and don't lose to Tennessee when you basically just couldn't throw the ball downfield in the second half. I mean,
look at Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss.
If Ole Miss beats Kentucky, they're in the playoff.
They beat Florida, and they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, but Florida upstart a better loss than Florida.
I agree,
but, team at home.
But Florida, there'll be a 2-loss team with losses to Kentucky and LSU on the road in overtime.
So look at their total body of work. It's similar to Indiana. They took care of business against the teams they played in their wins. They didn't take care of business against Kentucky.
And South Carolina's the same way too. South Carolina, Alabama, Ole Miss sit in the same pot. They have the same argument as everybody else.
No, South Carolina doesn't because they lost straight up to the head of those two teams, I think.
Well, I'm just saying in general though, like they're both a 9-3 team with a better straight of schedule than the team that was then over them. That's
you kind of mentioned something back there a second ago, Will, when you were talking about, and Ralph hit it, you win your games. Like, I'll just say this. I don't like that there wasn't more conversation around if Indiana should be in the playoff. But the reason there's not is because what you talked about. They blew teams out. So, yeah, their only ranked game that they played, they lost. Okay. But when they played their in-conference teams, they were embarrassing them. So they did everything else so dominant that it overcame that. So I can live with that. Now, to the point of SMU, Alabama, we can talk about this now. Alabama, if they don't lose to, Gavin and I were talking about this when we were driving to Atlanta today. If Alabama does not lose to Oklahoma, they're in the playoff. Like, they're going to put them in over SMU. Because the conundrum that you had, and I tweeted this out 1:30 in the morning. I said, today's selection show is going to pretty much set a precedent. Are you going to tell people that strength of schedule matters or conference championship matters? And I believe that SMU deserved to be in the playoff. But ESPN, the powers that be, they've got to err on that side of, I don't know, have caution. Because if you tell these teams that conference titles don't matter, they're going to opt out. They're going to fight tooth and nail to get rid of it, and it's going to lose you millions of dollars. Because now you're not going to have that. They'll just appoint the whatever best record to the tiebreaker and give it to them, and then we'll play the playoff games. But there's so much money in these conference title games, and honestly, there's a lot of entertainment value. I mean, you kind of look at how the conference title weekend went. Obviously, Iowa State laid an egg. Arizona State, dominated them. But you got to go to the other big three Power 4 games. You had an overtime game. You had a game-winning field goal. And you had a Penn State-Oregon game that was really back and forth.
Yeah.
So, I think that kind of set a precedent today. And I think the committee did the right thing in terms of putting money back in their pockets, if you know what I mean. Like if you would have told that. Now, to the argument of Alabama, and look, I want to say this too. We, a month ago, and this is going to come back up. I know it will. Because people don't watch full context. They just take clips and they like to say what they want to say. We very much still believe, and I was talking back and forth with one of the CBS national writers today on Twitter about this. We can sit here and say that the SEC, week in, week out, is the toughest conference to play football. However, I don't believe that 3 losses should overcome 1 regular season conference loss and a conference title loss. I just, for lack of better words, I can't get on that train, big dog. I can't do that. That's not okay. And also, too, when you include the fact that Alabama fans want to talk about, and I saw a lot of this on Twitter as I was getting on the plane to come to New Orleans and all this kind of stuff about, well, Greg Burns should just not schedule any more out-of-conference games. That wasn't the problem. You lost on the road at Vanderbilt and you lost to Oklahoma. So, and then the argument of this, and look, I'm an SEC guy. And I'll be the first one hand up to say this. When you're on social media or whenever you're saying you couldn't do that in the SEC, you're not doing it in the SEC. That's what sticks out to me. Alabama fans saying, well, Indiana couldn't do that. Penn State couldn't. They'd go 9-3 or 8-4. You went 9-3 in this conference. They wouldn't beat Vanderbilt. You didn't beat Vanderbilt. So that's, to me, one of the biggest things that we kind of saw with this is, and I tweeted this also at the fact, I said, this is what greed got you with it, conference expansion, and now the SEC is going to have to lay in their own bed. They're going to have to figure out how to do this. Does it mean they're going to schedule 2 G5 teams and an FCS team? I don't know. I will tell you this. You will never get these athletic directors to agree on a 9-game conference schedule now. They'll never do that. That will never happen. So let's open it up there, Ralph. I'm going to go back to you on this because Will hit on this a little bit, and we'll go to Will. The Alabama SMU thing, and you mentioned already, like Alabama should have won their games. While I also know there's money involved, I just don't think you can penalize teams for making their conference title game. And if they would have done that today, first off, that'd have been a death knell for the ACC. Like it would have been the end of the conference. People could get on there, and I know we have someone who watches the show, and their Twitter name is the ACC dead today? Did the ACC die today? And they tweet out no every single day until it eventually happens. And I think it will eventually happen in some form or fashion if we keep going the way we're going. But Ralph, to the point, like if that would have happened today, the ACC's dead. They'd have been given the middle finger to them, and even more power to the SEC and Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right. If you allowed the SEC to get in over the ACC conference champion runner-up after losing on a game-winning field goal on a 56-yarder rocket by that kicker, by the way, you ruined the ACC conference. You burned it. You burned them last year for one, and you burned them again this year. And I know Will's thinking Roush using the word burn. That's not shocking. But it's true, though. You would have put more power to the SEC. You would have made them look 10 times better than they actually are. You would have ignited a frustration from every conference from going on from here on out. Because what's the point of playing your conference game and playing a really good team and losing by 3 if you're not going to put in for being a runner-up in a tough conference? It's just, every team's getting better every year. I know that's not – there's some teams you could say probably aren't getting better right now, but with the portal and how the playoffs are going to keep expanding probably, every team's going to get better somehow. I mean, Auburn ruined A&M's chance this year. I mean, Auburn wasn't great all year, but they ruined A&M's chance toward the end of the season, and they go on the road to play Texas at home and lose.
Yeah,
that right there shows you that every week is a battle for these teams now. There's
margin of error is thin.
There's no walking on. You're walking on thin ice every week.
Yeah,
I mean Notre Dame plays Northern Illinois after beating A&M and get beat. Things like that is an every week thing now going on forward. And conference championships to me still should mean something. If you're going to win your conference and play in your conference championship, you deserve to be in there. Now, the argument is Clemson, because if Clemson wouldn't have made it, if Clemson loses that game by 3, are they in? No, because they'd have been a 4-loss team. 3-loss team, 4-loss team?
They'd have been 9-4, yeah.
Yeah, a 4-loss team that wouldn't have been in the playoffs, and people would have been outraged because the conference runner-up did not make it. But SMU would have made it being a conference runner-up. And that's another argument you have to answer.
You got to draw a line somewhere, and it's just I'm still cool with a 12-team playoff. Just let the computer do it. How about that?
Yeah, no, there's no automatic bids.
Just rank them. Top 12 teams. Let's roll. Have a wild card game. 3 get best of 3 series. No, I'm just kidding. Will, your thoughts?
I did want to say one more thing before Will. I do like this, and I don't know if it happened on purpose, but on accident. The other group of 5 conference champions are playing each other in the bowl games.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Army is playing, I think Ohio or
Marshall,
and then Ohio is playing Jacksonville State.
Army and
Marshall
are playing up in Shreveport,
even though no one will be there because Marshall's coach is gone.
Yeah, it's a wild situation. Crazy stuff. Will, what you got for us on that SMU BAMA stuff? I know you talked about a little bit more about it, but anything else before we move on to the actual bracket?
SMU's the better team. I mean, I think eye test will tell you that it's very difficult to compare their resumes, and it's hard to compare resumes. Period, because who creates the resumes? The same network that unveils the rankings and gets the broadcast rights to all the games. So it's just so very arbitrary. The whole thing is arbitrary. It's all opinion based. It's hard to figure out really who's better and who's not. But yeah, I mean, there was only one conference whose runner up did not make the playoff, and that was the Big 12. So I wonder if that will be a trend or if that's just a 1 year thing. We'll have to see going forward.
I think the Big 12 runner up either way would have not made the playoff this year.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think we're going to see. I mean, if it wasn't, it's going to have to be a special case, right? Like it's going to have to be a very special case where you're like an SMU where you go in with 1 loss. I don't think it could be a 3-loss. Georgia would have gotten in because of their strength of schedule. That's about it.
There's a comment here, and I know I kind of want to go off of this from Rum over here. If I'm undefeated, especially in the SEC team going forward, I'm skipping the conference championship while I risk it. Carson Beck's hurt.
Get a first round bye.
I agree, but now Carson Beck's hurt. I know Gunnar Stockton played.
Georgia was not undefeated.
Well, I know. I'm just saying in general, though. But if you're playing a conference championship game like this, and you're undefeated. If you were, and your quarterback gets hurt in that game, or your best player gets hurt in the game, now you're still in the playoff, but you lost that game. You're still in the playoff, but now you're out of quarterback. You're playing a home game without your quarterback.
You know what's crazy, though, about that? In 15, 20 years, really, the first playoff was 2014 season? 2014? Yes. In 10 years, 11 years, we have gone from if you slip up once, you're done. And everyone plays balls to the wall for 4 months to try and go win the thing. To now, little NBA action. Strategically, how can we stay healthy to navigate our way into a favorable spot in the playoff? Interesting stuff. All right, let's take a look at this real quick, and I want to go look at this bracket because I got some thoughts on it. First off, I wanted to point this out to you. On the left, you're going to see the seed, where you're also going to see the ranking. So it's very interesting to kind of have to pay attention to this. For some reason, people were complaining that they didn't understand this, and I don't know how many more commercials you need to see when you watch games to understand how this thing works. So that's interesting to me. So, quick takeaways. I hate the buys for a conference champion because we have now deemed that the number 9 and number 12 team are get a buy. I understand you want to keep things fair for winning the conference title, and it may go against what I was saying earlier, but I think it's also one thing where, like, I'm cool with them having a guaranteed spot. I mean, it's created chaos. Also, reseed this. Look at this is crazy to me. Penn State is the 6th seed, and I like SMU. They're going to play SMU when it's negative 75 degrees outside in a whiteout. They're going to go to Boise State. both of those teams don't have the roster that Penn State has. Now, anything can happen. Penn State, if they don't make the quarterfinal here, or I guess that's, the quarterfinal, semifinal, whatever it is, if they don't make the third round, disappointment. Complete disappointment, in my opinion, if they don't do that.
It all goes through Drew Aller.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I'm just talking about like in terms of the seeding of like, how does Penn State get this draw?
This the seeding is honestly preposterous.
I mean, Ohio State and Tennessee got the worst draw of it. Because they're playing each other first.
Oregon got this. Look, Oregon is the number 1 undefeated team in the country, and now they've got to go. Why don't they get the 12-5? I understand the numbers wise, but how does that make sense? Why would you not reseed this to where now also Texas? Now, look, Texas-Clemson, I think is a pretty underrated matchup. Could be a fun one. Clemson's defense could really frustrate Texas.
I already said y'all want it's a good matchup.
Yeah, repeat of the what? I guess whatever.
Who cares? Who cares about high school football? Who cares? That has nothing to do with the 2024 college football season.
It's a cool storyline.
No, it's not.
But Texas is the 5 spots the envy of the whole thing. You get the perceived worst conference champion, then you get the second worst conference champion, and you find yourself in the semifinals.
Oh, and you get to host a playoff game.
Yeah,
and take in all that revenue.
I think I'm just going to say this. I think Notre Dame bludgeons Indiana,
and then they turn around and get bludgeoned by Georgia
in New Orleans. I don't know. I hate that Tennessee. I hate that Oregon does all they get, and they get the winner of two. They have to play the winner of 2, in my opinion, top 6 teams.
I agree. I want to get to C's comment. Georgia just drew the easiest road to the championship possible. Ickiest or maybe luckiest, because I've seen that word thrown out a lot for Georgia. This could be autocorrect. Team to ever exist, I swear. I'm going to disagree with you there by calling it luck, because Georgia won the toughest conference in America. They have to get some type of reward now. And again, like I said earlier, they don't control who is number 7 and who is number 10. But being number 2, they would probably get a favorable draw. So I don't know that it's, I mean, I guess it is luck because they can't control it, but at the same time, the conference champions should have an easier path, even beyond getting to sit out a game. I think so. I think, I'll make the argument that all the top 4 teams here have earned their spot. Now it's unfair to it's unfavorable to Oregon and more favorable to Georgia. But again, play the games. That's why we play the games. And it's not really. I feel like I'm making the argument for both sides here, but it's obviously flawed. But just to say that they're the luckiest team, I don't think is fair, because they've earned it. They've earned the number 2 seed.
Well, this is just Georgia Tech fans being fickle because they don't like Georgia. You call them the luckiest team ever. Well, if you constantly have luck, maybe we should look to the other side of the thing. Maybe you constantly put yourself in advantageous situations.
Your own luck.
You create your own luck. Well, fumbles are not a skill at all. But for some reason, SMU and Clemson, Ralph, they both practiced that on the field pregame, which was a wild concept. Nancy does say, but Oregon number 1 didn't get that easy of a path as UGA did. That's what I'm saying. The 1 seed needs to be
flawed.
It's flawed. It's completely flawed. Like, play the first game and then let's reseed it to where the 1 seed actually plays the perceived worst team, which is, I think that's a conversation across they have in Major League Baseball. And when you play the playoffs, that's my issue with it. Ralph, what do you like? What do you hate about this?
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think what you do is you just have your top 4 teams. You play these playoff games not seeded at all, or you just have them seeded up with however they are, 5 through 12, and then whoever is the perceived worst team, in that out of those winners, play the 1 seed. Just like that. It's as simple as that. It makes more sense.
Down from there.
Yeah, I mean, if the 12 seed beats the 5 seed, 12 seeds playing the 5 or the 1 seed. I mean, that's perceived the lower seed, worst team. Doesn't mean they are, but that's just how it's set up as. But then if the 5 seed wins, they're playing the 4 seed. I think that's how you did it, right?
Honestly, if you just redid the seeding by the ranking, it's really a more favorable draw for everybody. And you could re-rank it,
right?
Just
right. You truly get what you earned.
Right. And you could reshape this. So like if you're a power conference team outside the top 12, like Clemson, you win your conference title game, you're gifted, so to say, the number 12 rank. You just call it seeds. Like don't worry about ranking and don't worry about guaranteeing a bye. Just be the top 4. If you're outside of that top 12 and you're like Clemson's case this year, Clemson would just be number 12. Right? They wouldn't be number 16 in the country, but the 12 seed. Just call them number 12, call them the 12 seed, and they would draw Notre Dame in the first round. And it would be favorable for really every other team. And I guess you could say you have to rearrange the numbers, make it a little bit more complicated. Arizona State would probably be 11. I mean, you'd have to rearrange it, but I think it'd be really better for everybody. It'd be much better for Tennessee and Ohio State not having to play each other in the first round. Ohio State would play Arizona State, if we're going to call them 11.
Yeah.
Tennessee would play SMU if we keep them as 10. I mean, because you're still rewarded for winning your games. And, you think back to a week ago, if the way the rankings were, if SMU wins, they're probably in the top 4 and they get that bye. Right? I mean, there's always going to be argument. There's always going to be people upset. You're not going to satisfy everybody, because in that model, if you say the top 4 get a bye, Texas gets a bye, and that meant that the SEC championship was meaningless. I mean, really, because both teams got a bye. But it's college football loves to make things way more complicated than it needs to be.
You know what's also interesting in this, and Ralph will love this, our quintessential G5 guy, is that I think this does show, and while I don't agree, this current model does show that wins are valued. Winning games are valued. And although Boise State's strength of schedule is it the worst out of the 12 teams in the playoff? I know Indiana's is pretty bad. But it's among the worst. Right. Let's say it's bottom 3 out of these 12 at least. It shows that if you just win, you're not only going to have a chance to be in the playoff, you're going to have a bye. So, hey, I'm looking at you, American Conference champion. I'm looking at you, Sun Belt champion. If you got a really good Power 4 loss, or even maybe you upset a Power 4 team, you can run the table in your conference and win the conference outright. You got a chance. Not if you're Army, and I know it makes Will sad, but
that's what I was about to get to.
Yeah. Ralph, does that make you happy though to see the little guy get a little bit of a sliver of the plate?
I mean, they already got one this year with a chance of making the playoff. It's a 12 seed being the highest, but you see them being a 3 seed right now. But yeah, I mean, my team won't be ever touching it, but worth it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you talk about the G5, and by that token, Army is being severely disrespected. Their only loss is to Notre Dame.
That's fair.
Biddy thinks is the 5th best team in the country, even though they lost to Northern Illinois. And Army won their conference, and they're 11-1, but they're not even anywhere near the top 12. So yeah. I mean, again, it's brand value. Boise State has that brand value because they have been in the BCS, been sniffing around the last 20 years, and Army has not. So it's going back to what I said earlier. It's brand value. It's resume. It's all of it. It's all of it. I mean, you can call it favoritism if you want, but that's what it is.
If you're going off strength of schedule, Boise State is 78th in the country. Arizona State is the closest one next to them, or Indiana is the next one is 67. Arizona State is 62.
Okay.
But strength of resume, Boise State is at 10.
Strength of record. I think SOR, strength of record.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I just think it's a seat at the table, and it is what it is. Maxwell with just a wild comment there. Nancy says, Army, no NIL or transfer portal. What college football used to be. And you're speaking right into the heart and soul of Will Mannis right there. Yeah,
maybe
you are. I mean, look, bottom line, this is going to be fun. I'm going to sit down and watch these games. It's going to be interesting. I will tell you right now, I don't know who's going to win. I don't. I think Oregon's the most complete team, and they're the number 1 seed. They've also got the toughest second-round matchup, regardless of who wins that game. So, I don't know. Like, I'd like to say Oregon's my favorite. That's who I picked in the preseason to win the whole thing. But we'll have to see. What you got for us, Will?
I have the BCS standings. Or what they would have been for this week. We've been talking about them a lot. So how close is the committee to the computer? Georgia 1, Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Notre Dame 3, Texas 4, Ohio State 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8, Boise State 9, Arizona State 10, Alabama 11, SMU 12, and Clemson at 13. Even the computer's no love for Army down at 19.
But by God, they love Missouri. Everybody loves Missouri.
Everybody loves Missouri. Colorado down at 22. Don't tell them, because who knows what they'll do with that disrespect. To me, I mean, everybody that watches know I'm a big BCS. I'll go to bat for the BCS, even though probably my favorite team in school was screwed the hardest by the BCS in 2004. But to me, it's probably the best way to rank the teams. I mean, I think you need a combination between analytics, eye test, everything, and I really think that the committee should be consulting this algorithm to rank teams, because it takes the bias out.
Yeah, no, it does, and you can not like it, but it's what the numbers tell you, and you can't argue with numbers on a computer. I guess. I mean, honestly, have you seen some of these college football fans? They'll argue with anything. So
you can,
I don't know,
because I'd say all the time, numbers never lie, but they don't always tell the whole truth.
Well, the bottom line is you're never going to make everyone happy, right? Like, there's going to be someone left out. Unless you make this thing a 64-team playoff, which I will not watch, then it's always going to be like that.
Let's make it a 130-team playoff, and just every week is a playoff game.
That's called the college football regular season. That's what that's called. And you eliminate, or you stay alive. Interesting stuff. College football playoff is here, and we'll obviously be taking a look at some of the games coming up in the near future. Bowl season actually kicks off this upcoming weekend, December 14th. We've got the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta, Jackson State. What a bummer. Southern was looking pretty, and Jackson State's going. South Alabama, and who are they playing?
Let's not talk about Celebration Bowl.
Let's don't do it. South Alabama's playing a big bowl game, so it'll be interesting. See how it works. I'm excited. College football bowl season is here. Yes.
Got to start the bowl pick'em this week.
Bowl pick'em this week. I'll get it fired up. We'll get it on social media. Make sure you join the Discord. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on social media platforms so you can see Gavin Hart just trot onto the field. Also, Will, do you remember when he grittied on the field as well? I'm like a pure child out there.
That happened. Well, he is a child.
He is a child. We'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching here on tonight's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.